Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to appear at this occasion before you, and more especially perhaps to reclaim with you some significant days of history in this area. And I am very pleased, of course, to be a part of this, and because I was a part of opening up this, which was called the territory of Arkansas. Now, I was born at a very early age. I'm waiting. I was born December the 29th, 1809. And some of you have indicated I looked well. Yes, for my age. Very well. I wasn't born here, of course. I was born in North Carolina, and actually in Raleigh, if you're familiar with that area. And when I was born, my parents, having a great respect for the first president of these United States, gave me his name. And I have tried to wear it with a great deal of respect for some 73 years, less one day, and tried to do the best with that name as I can. I was the eldest of four children, born to Reverend Thomas and Mrs. Mary McCoy Baines. Next in line was my sister, Julia Ann, and then my brothers William Creth and James Benjamin. We were the typical Baptist preacher's family in those early days. There was a lot of expansion. Going west was what you did, and for a Baptist preacher, going west meant going to find a place where he could help and minister to the vast numbers of pioneers who were making their way west. And so we were uprooted a good bit in our journey. In fact, in 1817, I was barely 8 years of age when we began our pilgrimage to the west. Oddly enough, we started south and went to Georgia, and then ended up in Alabama after it became a state in 1819. Over those years, with our moves, of course, my education was somewhat spotted. A little here, a little there, but I managed to find myself in the halls of higher learning when I reached that age, in a place called Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and going to the university there. I managed to pass the entrance exams and got in, but I didn't have much money for tuition. I wonder how many of you have experienced an equal amount of problem in this day even. Well, I remember the months of cutting and rafting timber to pay my way. You might say I was building my muscles so that I might be able to build my mind. I have since appreciated the labor of those days, even though at times it tested the mettle of my endurance. It was not an easy task. I was able to complete 3 years of study at the university before I was forced to leave in my senior year because I came down with a stomach ailment that was called dyspepsia. And that lingered with me. I never was able to get shut of that for the rest of my life. I had a recurring kind of experience. But I did have enough qualifications to teach school, so I began to teach school with the education that I had. But it was during this time in my studies that there was a significant change that came in my life. I've already said I was the member of a Baptist preacher's family, and so I had heard all of the messages growing up, but somehow it didn't attach itself to me personally until I reached the age of about 25, about 18 and 34, as I recall. And I confessed the faith of my parents and was baptized promptly in the Salem Baptist Church in Tuscaloosa County in Alabama. Now, I don't know why I waited so long. I can't fathom that at this point. It seems I should have made that decision a lot earlier in my life. But as Providence had directed, in 1836, would you believe that I joined the ranks of the Baptist preachers? In fact, I became the third of 4 generations lined up with that very important task. It was a call that came to me in that area, and yet it was a missionary call. I was always quite struck with the matter of how we must expand, and of course expanding with a nation that was expanding west. And in order to meet the needs of that vast array of pioneers as they were going west, they had to have spiritual guidance. And so it was, I embarked on something that was to influence this area of the West. I was part of a group who came. I had been assigned with responsibility to the Baptist Mission Society out of New York City. And I was given specific responsibility to help plant churches, to preach and minister to the people on the frontier of that which was now come to be known as Harrison, Arkansas, of course the territory. From Harrison to a place called Jasper. Are you familiar with that? Well, I had responsibility all along that area, and it was an area known as Crooked Creek. Now, I know you're familiar with that one. It was during this time in my missionary journey, I was able to plant 3 churches in that area through that. And I pastored one of them. It was called the Crooked Creek Baptist Church. And it was purported to be the first one established in the area. So it is one of the oldest existing churches. In fact, there's one that is really inherited the place, you might say, of that early one. It's found out on, I understand, what is it, a Highway 206? Must be many highways now to have them all numbered that way. But Union Baptist, I believe, is the name. I had begun, of course, pastoring, and at that time also, I met someone that was very special to me, someone from this area. Her name was Melissa Ann Butler. And we met, and then we married. October the 20th in 1840. Oh, that's curious. What's the date today? 19th. October 19th. Bless my soul. Let me see. And do some recollecting here. Tomorrow would have been our 173rd anniversary. My time flies when you're having fun. Speaking of time, mine's running out just a little bit. While I was serving as pastor here, I'm married, of course, but from the months of November of 1843 to February of 44, I was actually elected as the representative of Carroll County to serve in the Arkansas House of Representatives. And so I did serve my time as a member of that august body. And it was a memorable term, a short one. But I discovered that there was something going on at home on the church field. And of course, I know many of you who have such experiences realize that there's probably a few things that go on in a negative way at times. But I heard that there were some problems. I began to think that perhaps Crooked Creek wasn't just a matter of describing a creek that went this way and this way. Maybe it had something to do with what went along the banks of that creek. Well, all was not proverbially a bed of roses for me. My time as pastor came to an abrupt conclusion in 1844. You see, the congregation had steadily moved away from what was considered a missionary thrust. And because I was a missionary pastor, somehow they didn't see eye to eye with what it was I wanted to be accomplishing. And so myself and a few others who agreed with my particular point of view were ousted from the congregation and had to seek places elsewhere. Well, I love the area. Hated to leave this. We had begun to prove about 160 acres of ground here and enjoying the people. It was a sparsely settled area at the time, but we were enjoying the kind of neighbors that we had. But I did get a call. I got a call at that time to move my family. And by the way, my mother had come with us to this area, my brother, my sister. And so we began our move to move from this area to another. I got a call from the area of Louisiana and in a place called Mount Lebanon in the northern part of that area. I served as the superintendent of schools and the founding minister of what is called the Sea Line Baptist Church, constituted in 1844. I was able in Louisiana to establish several congregations and to even be a part of establishing what was called the North Louisiana Baptist Convention at the time. And that occurred in 1848. So I had a lot of memorable successes, you might say. But the westward move was still a part of my life, and I wanted to move further west. And so I moved to a whole other country. I believe they call it Texas. A whole other country. I've heard that. Perhaps you have as well. I think today they claim it to be a whole other country at times. Now, I heard someone express it this way, that perhaps they're just the largest southwest county in the territory of Arkansas. There is a bite out of that lower part, as you understand. But I did move into the area of Texas, considered myself a privileged man. Not only had I been able to plant churches in Arkansas and also in the Louisiana area, but I pastored several congregations in Texas, and I continue to be grateful for that. Then I was in the right place at the right time when I was able to help establish the first Baptist newspaper in the state of Texas. And then if that weren't enough, I had the privilege of serving as the president of Baylor University during the Civil War years, 1861 to 1863. Now, it was somewhat different than it is today with universities. You see, I handled the administration of the school and taught grades 7 through 12 at the university. Doesn't sound correct, does it? But you see, the university there was teaching all of the grades 6 and above. Not like the modern day college and university, of course. I had a proclivity for science, and so I also taught a science class as well. But I resigned. I had to resign because it just wasn't a part of my makeup. I did it and helped the church, or helped the school to grow, but really my gifts were in the area of pastoring. And so I returned to the pastorate. I moved my family to a farm near Fairfield, Texas, and frankly, it was a difficult time for there. I lost my dear wife, Melissa, and the youngest of our 10 children also passed at that time. I did remain alone for some time, but I eventually, 2 years later, in 1865, did marry a widow named Cynthia Williams. And we spent a good deal of time together in those remaining years. I did love to pastor, did a stint, though, as an agent for the Baptist State Convention of Texas. You might say I was pressed into service. However, my church did not want me to leave, and so I was returned to the pastorate, much to my delight. After Cynthia died in January of 1882, I went to live with my daughter Anna in Belton, Texas. And it was here that with a bout of malaria, I was extended my final call and permanent change of venue in December of 1882. As a postscript to my life, I'm going to drop a name. In fact, I have another name that I would drop, and that is the name of Sam Houston. You've heard of that name before. He was a close personal friend. And in fact, I was one of the enabling forces to help him with his spiritual journey. I look forward to that experience of seeing him one day, of course. A closing thought. As I bid you thanks for this opportunity to share in your reclaiming of history, I want you to listen carefully. If the Lord tarries his promised return long enough for your history to be researched by generations to come, I bid you give them as much journaling and details as you can. And write your impressions, not just cold facts. Someday, someone may want to put on your face and portray your life. I bid you give them something substantial to work with. God bless you. Thank you.